Aye? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then we'll move into our public comment period. Those wishing to speak must state their name and address for the record. After they are acknowledged by the board chair, each person will be limited to 2 minutes to make his or her remarks. Speakers will address all comments to the board as a whole and not one individual commissioner. The board may not take action on an item presented during the public comment period unless the item is already on the agenda for action. When appropriate, the board may refer inquiries and items brought up during the public comment period to the county administrator for follow-up. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment?
Good evening, my name is Matt Senna. I'm at 2519 Stony Creek Drive, and I have a letter here from somebody who is not able to represent themselves this evening. It's also in our neighborhood, and this is in regards to the East Side Corridor project being proposed primarily, as we understand it, at 29th Avenue. His name is Seth Muir. He's at 2551 Mossy Creek Drive in Owatonna. He says, I wish I could be at this meeting in person, but I am working out of town this week, so I'm unable to be here. So I'm typing this statement in hopes that it can be read during this meeting. While you've likely heard these concerns voiced by many people multiple times regarding the East Side Corridor, our concerns are genuine and important for the decision makers to digest and embrace our concerns so they can best represent their constituents and or serve the people and the community for which they work. I understand the necessity for an eastern corridor, but I vehemently oppose placing this road so close to existing homes in the Country View subdivision. As with many other homeowners, when we bought our home in 2006, we were told that at some point in the future, probably 10 years out or more, there would likely be a road behind our home, that this road would be a residential street with a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. As I have attended 4 or 5 meetings over the last year and a half regarding the Eastern Corridor proposal, the story has devolved quickly. Abruptly, it appears that a decision has been made to put a higher speed road almost literally in my backyard, which would also be in the backyards of many families' homes, and to connect to potentially Fox Hollow and Timberwood Lane and to connect these streets to this very busy and fast street. Thus, it seems and feels as though some decision makers have not been forthright and honorable in this process, and this is disheartening. I hope there's still time to consider making this the safest and most appropriate for all involved. I realize there are complexities involved, but safety must be a top priority. There are many children, some with special needs, and many older folks, some with dementia in this neighborhood. Furthermore, property values would significantly decline if the street is right next to us. Will there be compensation for this loss? I beseech you to place this street further east. Commuters will drive the extra 10 more seconds or so to use the East Corridor if it is at 34th Avenue rather than 29th. This will be the safer location for the many children and families. This will be more in line with maintaining home values, and this will allow for more future city planning and growth. Thank you, Seth Muir.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else wishing to speak tonight?
My name is Nanette Bateman. My husband Mike and I live on Timberwood Lane, and we share the same sense that was just presented. We oppose the Northeast Corridor butting up to Country View Addition. The addition is a residential community where trikes, bikes, walkers, runners already share the road with motor vehicles, motorcycles, utility service delivery trucks, school buses, and emergency vehicles because there are no sidewalks. Not one in the entire addition. Sidewalks are not needed as it's currently structured. You would likely hear from homeowners objecting to property tax increases should propose sidewalks. A rendition was shared of what rural and urban pedestrian sidewalk would look like alongside the corridor. The rural representation allowed for twice the amount of green space between the sidewalk and the road. The sidewalk with the most physical space between it and a 55-mile road can be achieved at the 34th Avenue, making that a responsible choice. Additionally, if not in the initial plan, perhaps look to add a small parking space for vehicles to safely unload their families, bikes, strollers, and wheelchairs. similar to the off-street parking space at the southwest end of the 26th Street. Timberwood Lane is one of the two roads in Country View that could potentially intersect with the corridor, the other being Fox Hollow. The adjoining lots between Timberwood and Stony Creek, this way, are the only, that space is the only designated park in the addition. The city maintains the park grounds, the picnic tables, and the waste receptacle. In this space, families gather, kids walk and ride their bikes, and dog owners play catch with their pets. Adding traffic onto Timberwood and around the park area poses additional safety risk. Now I just wanted to read this article that was in the paper, June 14th. Paul Spaniel said, "We need something now," Spaniel said, "and 34th Avenue is just too far away for the current needs." 34th is not that far out there. Matter of fact, we drove it and we bypassed it. We thought it was way farther out than it was. For an example of efficient, well-planned corridor, look to our east, literally, look to Rochester. They built the East and West Circle Drives. At the time East Circle Drive was built, that was considered way out there. And now there's a home, high school, and other businesses along the corridor. In closing, as homeowners, we knew when we built our home that Rose Street is the only way in and out of the addition, and we chose to purchase. The addition is nearly all built, traffic is relatively low, neighbors watch out for each other, for each other's children, and for each other's property. We collectively object to constructing a 55-mile-an-hour corridor that will knowingly encroach upon existing homes and property and intersect with their streets, adding unnecessary traffic and safety risks. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Gail Jorgensen. I'm a new resident of Owatonna. And first of all, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your time and consideration for serving the community. It's a thankless job, and I thank you. Now, with that being said...
Your address, please?
Oh, 249 East Main, formerly home of Harriet Baker. Before that, it was the Pillsbury president. Before that, it was Michael Cashman. Before that, it was Dr. Leonard Bennett, and before that, it was Dr. Philander Humphreys, who died in the massacre.
Your homework.
More than you know. This home, I looked long and hard for it, okay? And I had a long range of looking. I was willing to move to Duluth. Wasn't willing to move to Iowa. But back home in Wisconsin, where I'm from, you know, I had a long, and so I found this house that I dearly love. We asked the questions of the realtor. We asked about sidewalk assessments in particular, and we were told there was none in the foreseeable future. So I figured unless a tree went, I'd be okay. A couple of weeks ago, the neighbor told me that, the neighbor who rents, told me that they were planning on putting a roundabout and taking part of my property. Nobody told me, okay? The woman who owned the house before me had dementia. If she knew anything about it, there's no cognitive way she could have let anyone know. She was elderly enough that if there was open houses for her to see, she wouldn't be able to make it to them, you know, not without people giving her rides. And the other residents in my neighborhood are elderly too, and they don't talk to the renters. So I am very much opposed to my property being taken. I see the need for expansion. I'm not sure if a roundabout in that particular location is warranted. I feel like I wasn't given any time or consideration to think this through and talk about it, but it will affect my property in many ways. I have 3 lots there. It'll make 2 of the lots unable to be used. There'll be no parking for the middle lot. I would have to, you know, I always intended that if I was to develop those lots, per se, for my children, that I would be moving or working with the carriage house. And that house is a historic property that I'm doing the research There's so many things to consider with the roundabout, the lack of parking. As Owatonna and Steele County grows, you're going to be having mass transit, not this little shopper bus, but mass transit. And so many people are having enough trouble getting to their doctor appointments as it is, as they become elderly. And the demographics of Steele County is changing, but you don't look at just the young people moving in with their families. There's older people looking for a place to retire to. And there's people coming down from the cities after the riots that are just looking for a calm space. All of this is part of the consideration to take in. And Owatonna, Belle Plaine, Medford, all these cities that are under your jurisdiction all have a beautiful small town charm, historic charm. And you want to preserve that and yet grow. It's a big job, I know that. You know, I'm just speaking for my own property. My property I bought partly with my own savings and partly with my inheritance. My inheritance was made up of my mother's inheritance that she got from her father, who was a farmer. She chose not to farm. She chose to turn that 40 acres into an investment for us kids for the future. My grandfather received that acreage that he divided among his kids from his father, who was a pioneer resident of Black Creek, which is near Appleton, Wisconsin. So, and his name was Carl Krieger, just in case we're related, cuz. And I have no problem going up
Originally from Wisconsin, so.
Yeah, I have no problem arguing with my cousins. I'm still their favorite cousin, they'll tell you. And because of that, I do think you have to look not only at what's going on with me in town, but the eastern border. As I understand it, from what I looked at the map, you're going to be dividing a farmer's land right down the middle. How is he going to farm both parcels easily with a highway down the middle? You know, I only drove tractor a couple of times, you know, so I can't imagine with the big combines and all they have to do, you know. And I went to the open house for that quarter meeting. I told the woman in charge of that map this, and she said, well, you'd have to go on this street, and it's a mile away. What's a mile? If you go downtown and try to get a bagel, it's 45 minutes. What? A bagel and a smear. What's another mile? A minute or two? For me, that's nothing. I realize I'm retired, but I spent most of my time in the city. You know, a mile isn't much of anything. And it's not like you have the kind of downtown traffic people have in the cities. Anyway, I'd like you to consider what I have to say. And I very much need to be part of the process with my property being discussed. I feel left out. I feel, of course, neglected, but I also kind of wonder if there was any hinky thing with the real estate agent, but she was probably overwhelmed after COVID and, you know, big rush on properties. So I don't know, I can't judge, but I do want to be part of the process. I do hope that you thoughtfully consider what I have to say. Thank you.
I think there'll be many more meetings on Main Street before anything.
Well, cuz you'll see me at them.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Yeah.
Melissa Zimmerman, 2525 Stony Creek Drive, and I typed it up here to keep it within 2 minutes. I just wanted to share a very recent experience with you. Just a few weeks ago, a young child with a disability escaped the house unbeknownst to his family. Despite all the safeguards the parents put in place, the child wandered into the empty lots behind us, and lacking the fear of danger, was in danger of being hurt. I ran out and pulled the child away from danger, while I had another of my children go notify the family. I was able to safely return the child home, unharmed, this time. Today, this child was in minor danger, and it ended well. If this road is built on 29th Avenue, next time this child would be in the middle of a 55-mile-an-hour road, with cars flying past every 17 seconds, and a semi less than every 2 minutes. Today was a scare, an inconvenience that every parent would choose versus the inevitable danger this road would cause this close to existing homes. This was not my child, but I can imagine the fear of those parents because I am amongst the many families that have more than a dozen children with disabilities and special needs in this neighborhood. Many of those disabilities come with an inherent inability to understand danger, and the safety of this neighborhood is exactly why families purchased homes in this area. None of this is a lack of parenting because we as parents did our part by purchasing homes with safety in mind. Putting a road that close and at that high rate of speed to so many existing homes with children and adults. It's not just children, it's adults too. With disabilities, rips that safety and security from us, and no amount of mitigation strategies can give that back to us. There are so many concerns in regards to this road, but safety is the most important concern. Using the existing right-of-ways on County Road 34 would not only eliminate so many safety concerns, but also significantly reduce the cost of mitigation factors we would need to make this anywhere close to safe for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, thank you all for coming tonight.
If you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I'm Lori, I'm on 1060 Country Avenue, and a lot of what I'll say kind of echoes these folks here too, but we've been in the neighborhood for about 9 years. I'm a transplant from Owatonna. I was raised by a farmer's kid, so I understand the dilemma that we're in, right? It's important. But the neighborhood, we love this neighborhood. I mean, you guys all know that. Like, we've created this really great community. I'm in a young kid family sector, and we have all the way up to the elderly. So my kids go out on the street, they see teenagers, young kids, adults, and they're getting to really good relationships with a myriad of generations, and it's really cool. We look out for each other, it's super safe. Everyone, I wish you guys could all live there. Like, it's a really good neighborhood. And I'm very proud of it. Sorry. But these homes are built for families, and they're built for aging people. We moved to town, we lived with, I don't know why, I'm quite intrigued, but anyway. We lived with Highway 14 in our backyard, and it was fine for the moment. We were a young couple, but it was very difficult to live with a highway in our backyard. Those semi-trucks, you can't have a conversation, you can't make a phone call in your backyard. You know, we have fires all the time. Like, that's going to really disrupt the neighborhood. Not for my backyard, but for others. And I really do feel like I need you to know if this highway goes through this backyard, you're interrupting a very important community that we've created in our neighborhood, I would say. A lot of people will leave, and I wouldn't blame them, but it's really going to change the dynamic, I feel, of the neighborhood, and I think that's what we're trying to protect here. And I just need you to know, if you go with that backyard in that road, that's what you're doing. It's a very, very valuable community. I think there's a lot of things that would disrupt that. I made that point clear. But the other piece is these little kids, in the winter, they're sitting at the bus stop, they have no sidewalk to stand on. There's snow up this high. And if you think 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds are sitting like this along the street waiting for the bus to come, they're not. They're squirrely, they're hanging out with their friends. They don't have a place to stand on the bus stop. Our dogs don't have a sidewalk to walk that they can't, worry about cars coming in and traffic. So that sidewalk piece is very important to consider for a lot of those reasons. If we go this route, we're going to need to think about that because that's pretty not safe for a lot of reasons. We need to be able to walk in the winter. And so that's my opinion, and that's what I think. So thanks for all of your time and for hearing us today.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you all for coming. So we'll move on to the next thing on our agenda. Is there anything with correspondence?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And the consent agenda, what is the board's wishes?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. All those in favor, are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we'll move on to the general item number 10, which is on page 104.